Lesson number 3 is going to cover the audio react portion of Trapcode Form. As you can see, this can make some truly amazing looking visuals. In addition, we'll cover the sphere layered setting within base form. We'll cover a lot more on quick maps, and we'll cover something called disperse. So to save us a little time, I've already created a composition with form applied to a solid, a new camera, and I've called the composition audio react, because that's what we're going to be focusing on. Now, I do need some audio, so I'm going to drop an MP3 of some WC into my comp. And on my form settings, I'm going to go to the audio react section and set the audio layer to this MP3. Now, what we haven't used so far is a sphere layered setting. I can go into the sphere layers and lower the number of layers to 2. I'm going to set the size to 400 by 400 by 100. So if I orbit my camera down, we'll see it kind of looks like, well, sort of like an M&M, I guess. Now I'm going to increase the particles in X and Y to 200. This will smooth this shape out. Again, remember, Trapcode Form makes its imagery based on particles. So more particles we have, the smoother the image is going to look. So the way we use this audio react is by defining a layer to use as the audio, which I've already defined. Now if I twirl open one of these reactors, we can modify how we are looking at the audio. Specifically, what frequency range are we looking at? So we're looking at 100 Hertz right now, which is fairly low. So it's sort of following the low end or the bassy area of the audio. We can expand how far we look on either side of that very specific frequency by adjusting the width here. We can also adjust the strength and threshold of the audio in terms of how strong it is applying this map to our visual, as well as the audio threshold. So we can push this up a little higher so it has less of an effect. So in this sample, what I'm going to do is map this audio to the fractal of my Trapcode form. Now, we're not going to see anything just yet because I do not have the fractal actually affecting anything. Remember, the fractal field can affect particle opacity or size or displacement. So if I go down into this fractal field and I set this displacement to 100, we will see that the displacement is now dependent on the audio. Currently, all of the particles that make up this image are being affected at the same time. So when this audio reactor sees audio come in, it applies a fractal displacement to all of the particles at the same time. What's really cool with this plugin is that we can specify a certain amount of delay and the direction that the delay is going to move. So if I set this delay max here to a setting of 1.0 and I leave this on left to right, the audio reactor will sweep this effect across the left to right direction using this delay setting that we've got right here. I can increase the strength that this audio reactor is using by pumping up the strength here. Now in the example I showed you at the beginning, I was actually using X outwards, which is going to start in the center and radiate out from the center, which I think looks really cool. Now we also need to change the color of this because I'm not really happy with the white that we're using. So I'm going to go into the quick maps, select a color map, and I need to get myself a little more room here. Let's start with this preset right here and create a quick map for us to use. Now I'm going to apply this color map to the y-axis of our image. So it's going to start with that lighter yellow and move down. Now if I'd like to make modifications to the opacity, I can go into this opacity map, which works in conjunction with the color map, and modify this map that we've got right here. So if I use this preset here, which starts at a high value and then trails off to nothing, this map and the color map both get applied to this same axis right here, the y-axis. So in the y-axis, our particles will gradually fade from 100% down to 0 all the way at the bottom. Another way I could do this is by resetting that and going down here and using one of these additional quick maps. I can open up map number 1 and use this same preset that would go from 100 all the way down to 0, map this opacity to the y-axis. The reason I might want to use this quick map instead of this opacity map up here for opacity is that I might want to use a different axis. I could use the x-axis to map my opacity and use the y for my color map. I could also map things like the particle size in x, y, or z, as well as all these other functions that you can see in here. Now, while we're on this topic, what we haven't covered is disperse. So let's set this map to opacity and set this in the y-axis and close up these quick maps and take a look at another setting down here in disperse and twist. Now, disperse essentially adds randomness to each particle position that makes up the image. What I can do is go into the audio react section and use a second audio reactor to map to the disperse function, and we'll have this go x outwards like we did before, and we'll set a little bit of delay. So now, in addition to the fractal displacement, we've got random position going on with the disperse setting. So when you add these together, it looks pretty cool, I think. And of course, what makes every image look better is by adding Trapcode Shine. We'll set this to normal. I'm going to turn colorize to none, and that way it's going to grab the original colors of this form.